In the desolate ruins of what was once New Earth, the air hung heavy with a sense of foreboding. The skeletal remains of skyscrapers jutted into the sky like broken teeth, remnants of a civilization that had reached for the stars only to be cast back down to the ashes. Among the rubble, a small band of survivors gathered, training in the shadows of their fallen world. They were battle-worn and weary, but their spirits burned brightly with a fierce determination, especially that of Kayla. Kayla, a skilled warrior with a fierce gaze and an unyielding resolve, moved fluidly through the makeshift training ground. Her long, dark hair whipped around her face as she executed a series of precise strikes against a training dummy crafted from scavenged materials. Each punch and kick was a testament to her dedication and resilience. The sounds of her blows echoed in the hollow space, a rhythm of defiance against the encroaching darkness. "Faster, Kayla!" shouted Jax, her closest ally and a seasoned fighter himself. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a scar running down his cheek, a mark of past battles. "You're not just fighting shadows. You're preparing for the real thing." Kayla paused for a moment, her breath steadying as she wiped the sweat from her brow. "I know, Jax, but if I push too hard, I might lose focus. We can't afford mistakes." Around them, the others trained with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. The news had traveled fast, like wildfire through dry brush. Alien fleets were rising from the depths of space, their ominous presence a constant threat looming over humanity. Each member of the group understood the stakes. They were at the brink of extinction, and Kayla was their beacon of hope. "Let's take a break," she said, raising a hand to halt the training. "We need to conserve our strength. We can't let fatigue be our downfall." As the group gathered in a haphazard circle, Kayla felt a familiar weight settle on her shoulders. She was not only training them, she was preparing them for a war that seemed increasingly inevitable. Jax approached her, concern etched on his face. "Kayla, what if we're not ready for this?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if we do face them and—" Kayla cut him off, her voice firm yet compassionate. "We will be ready. We have no choice. If we fall, it's not just our lives at stake. It's the future of humanity. We owe it to everyone who fought and died before us." Jax nodded, though doubt lingered in his eyes. Kayla understood the fear that haunted her comrades. They had witnessed the destruction of their homes, the loss of their loved ones, and the unrelenting cruelty of the alien forces. But she also knew that their fear could be transformed into strength, and she was determined to lead them through the storm. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the ruins. The group settled into a somber silence, their thoughts drifting toward the uncertainty of tomorrow. Just as the weight of despair threatened to engulf them, a distant rumble pierced the air, a sound that sent a shiver down Kayla's spine. "Did you hear that?" whispered Mira, a young scout with sharp eyes and a keen sense for danger. Kayla's heart raced as she strained to listen. The sound grew louder, a low hum that reverberated through the ground beneath their feet. It was unmistakable. The alien fleets were closer than they had anticipated. "Get ready," Kayla commanded, her voice rising above the tension. "We need to prepare for anything." The group quickly moved to their positions, adrenaline surging through their veins as they assumed defensive stances. Kayla felt the weight of their gazes upon her, all eyes looking to her for guidance. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Remember your training? We fight as one. No one gets left behind." As the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Kayla and her comrades braced for the impending storm. The rumble intensified, and with it came the shadow of the alien ships, darkening the horizon. Days passed swiftly, each one blending into the next, filled with preparations and whispered conversations about the unknown. Kayla led reconnaissance missions, scouting the surrounding areas for signs of the alien presence. On one such mission, she found herself navigating through the skeletal remains of a once thriving city, the silence eerie and unsettling. "Stay alert," she instructed her team, her senses heightened. The air was thick with tension as they moved cautiously among the ruins. They could be anywhere. As they rounded a corner, Kayla's eyes narrowed at a strange structure nestled against a crumbling building. It was unlike anything she had seen before, an alien design, sleek and menacing, pulsating with an unsettling energy. Her heart raced as she signaled for her team to halt. "Wait here," she whispered, creeping closer to the structure, her instincts screaming at her to be cautious. The entrance was partially obscured by debris, but she could see a faint light emanating from within. With each step, the atmosphere grew heavier, thick with the smell of ozone and something unidentifiable. Kayla took a deep breath, pushing the fear aside. She had to know what lay inside. The door slid open silently, revealing a dimly lit corridor. Kayla stepped inside, her pulse quickening with both excitement and trepidation. The walls were lined with strange symbols, glowing softly in the darkness. She moved deeper into the base, every sense on high alert. Suddenly, a faint sound caught her attention, a muffled voice. It was coming from a room at the end of the corridor. Kayla's heart raced as she pressed on, the voice growing clearer with each step. "Help! Someone! Please!" The plea echoed through the air, filled with desperation. Kayla burst into the room, her weapon drawn, ready for anything. But what she found stunned her. In the center of the chamber, a man was bound to a chair, his face gaunt and weary, but his eyes sparkled with hope. "Who are you?" Kayla demanded, her voice firm. "What's happening here?" "I'm a human," he gasped, relief flooding his features. "I was captured by the aliens. They're planning something terrible for our people. You have to listen." Kayla stepped closer, lowering her weapon slightly. "What do you know?" The man swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "They're gathering forces, preparing to strike at the heart of what's left of humanity. They plan to enslave us, to harvest our strengths and use them against us. You have to warn your people." Kayla felt a surge of anger rise within her, a fire igniting in her chest. "We will stop them. I promise you that." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, and Kayla's heart sank. They had to get out. "Stay close," she instructed, urgency lacing her tone. "We need to move." As they retraced her steps, Kayla's mind raced. The man's words echoed in her ears. This was worse than she had imagined. She had to get this information back to her comrades. They needed to prepare a counterattack. Back at the camp, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Kayla burst through the makeshift entrance, her heart pounding from the urgency of their situation. Her comrades looked up, concern etched on their faces. "What happened?" Jax asked, his brow furrowed. "There's no time to explain," Kayla said, her voice steady yet urgent. "We have intel on the aliens' plans. We need to gather everyone, now." The camp erupted into a flurry of activity as Kayla prepared to share the vital information. She could feel the weight of expectation bearing down on her as she stepped onto a makeshift platform, her comrades gathering around her. "Listen up," she called, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "I've just returned from a reconnaissance mission. I found a captured human who revealed the aliens' plan. They're preparing to strike hard, aiming to enslave us and use our strengths against our own people." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Kayla could feel the fear rising. "But we will not let that happen. We have to unite, to fight back with everything we have." Mira stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "What's our next move? We can't just sit here and wait for them to come." Kayla nodded, her resolve strengthening. "We will launch a counterattack. We'll gather our forces and take the fight to them before they can strike. This is our chance to show them that humanity will not be easily subdued." A roar of approval erupted from the group, igniting the flames of determination within them. Kayla felt a surge of pride for her comrades, the fire of rebellion lighting their spirits. They were ready to take a stand, to fight for their survival. As they began to strategize, Kayla couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The path ahead would be fraught with danger and sacrifice, but she was prepared to face whatever came their way. Together, they would rise against the darkness threatening to engulf them, ready to reclaim their future. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light cascading over the jagged ruins of the alien base. Kayla crouched behind a crumbling wall, her heart racing as she surveyed the situation. The night air was thick with tension, and the distant sounds of alien machinery hummed ominously in the shadows. She could feel the weight of her comrades' eyes on her, a mix of hope and anxiety reflected in their expressions. "Are you sure about this, Kayla?" whispered Jax, one of her most trusted allies, his brow furrowed, the dim light casting deep shadows across his face. "What if it's a trap?" Kayla straightened, her grip tightening around the hilt of her sword. "We need to take the fight to them. If we don't strike now, we'll lose our chance. We've trained for this, Jax. This is our moment." The small group of survivors nodded, drawing strength from her resolve. They were outnumbered, yes, but they were determined. Kayla felt the fire of leadership coursing through her. She raised her sword, its blade glinting in the moonlight. "On my mark," she declared, her voice steady. "We move in 3, 2, 1!" With a battle cry, they charged forward, adrenaline surging through their veins. The initial moments of the raid were a whirlwind of chaos. Kayla led the charge, her sword swinging with precision as she cut through the first line of alien guards. Their grotesque forms fell before her. But the fight was far from over. "Push forward!" she shouted, rallying her comrades. But as they breached the entrance of the base, an explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The entrance collapsed, debris flying in every direction. "Retreat! We're being flanked!" Jax yelled, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of battle. Kayla turned, her heart sinking as she saw the alien reinforcements pouring in from the shadows. They were surrounded. "Fall back!" Kayla commanded, her voice laced with urgency. The group fought desperately to carve a path through the chaos, but the odds were stacked against them. Blaster fire rained down, forcing them to duck and weave for cover. Kayla fought valiantly, her movements a blur as she parried and struck. But the realization began to dawn on her. They were outnumbered, and survival was becoming increasingly unlikely. "Kayla, we need to go!" Jax shouted, fear evident in his eyes. He was grappling with an alien soldier, struggling to maintain his footing. Kayla rushed to his side, her heart racing as she dispatched the creature with a swift strike. "Get to the exit!" she urged, desperation creeping into her voice. "I'll cover you!" "No, we're not leaving you behind," Jax protested, but Kayla pushed him away with a fierce determination. "Go! That's an order!" Her voice was resolute, and for a brief moment, Jax hesitated, the weight of her command anchoring him in place. But the moment passed, and he knew she was right. With a final glare toward the oncoming horde, Kayla turned and fought her way back toward the exit, her heart heavy with the knowledge that they might not all make it out alive. The group stumbled into the open air, gasping for breath. The momentary relief was shattered as they turned to see the chaotic scene behind them. Alien forces surged from the entrance, their grotesque forms illuminated by the flickering lights of the base. "Move! Move!" Kayla urged, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. They sprinted across the barren landscape, the sounds of battle fading behind them. But she could feel the weight of defeat pressing on her shoulders. Once they reached a safe distance, they collapsed, panting and battered. Kayla looked around at her comrades, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and fear. Jax fell to his knees, his hands on his head, struggling to process the chaos they had just escaped. "What happened back there?" Jax breathed, his voice shaky. "We were supposed to win. We had the element of surprise." "I thought we did," Kayla admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I underestimated their numbers. I led us into a trap." Guilt surged within her, a heavy weight that threatened to consume her. "Kayla, it wasn't your fault," one of the other survivors, Mira, said softly. "We all knew the risks. We fought bravely." "Bravely," Kayla echoed, frustration boiling beneath her skin. "We lost. We should have been able to do better. I should have been able to do better. Jax looked up, his expression resolute. But we survived. We've lost battles before, but we're still here to fight another day. You can't let this defeat define you. Kayla took a deep breath, but the guilt remained lodged in her throat. What if I'm not cut out to lead? What if I'm not strong enough? Before Jax could respond, an elder from their group, Alicia, approached. Her presence exuded wisdom earned through years of hardship. Kayla, she said gently, placing a reassuring hand on the warrior's shoulder. Every warrior faces defeat. It's not the battles won or lost that define us, but how we rise from them. You have a fire within you, and that fire is what will lead us. But I lost so many. Kayla's voice cracked, the weight of her comrades' sacrifices pressing down heavily on her heart. Loss is a part of war, Elysia replied, her voice steady. But it is also a teacher. You must learn from this, not just for yourself, but for those who look to you for strength. You have the potential to unite and inspire. Don't let this defeat extinguish your flame. Kayla looked into Elysia's eyes, feeling a flicker of hope igniting within her. You really think I can lead them? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I know you can, Elysia affirmed, her expression unwavering. But you must believe it too. Embrace your fate as a warrior, Kayla. The path ahead won't be easy, but it is yours to forge. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled overhead, Kayla felt the weight of Elysia's words settle into her heart. A newfound determination flickered within her, a desire to honor the fallen and become the leader they needed. Just as hope began to flourish, Kayla's wrist communicator beeped, cutting through the tense atmosphere. She activated it, a sense of urgency prickling at her skin. The screen flickered to life, revealing a message from an unknown source. Kayla, if you seek power, there is a weapon hidden on the abandoned space station orbiting Titan. It is your only hope against the Coalition. But be warned, it will not come without trials. What is this? She murmured, her heart racing. The message was cryptic, but it spoke to the very heart of her mission. Who sent this? Jax asked, peering over her shoulder, his curiosity piqued. I don't know, Kayla admitted, her mind racing. But if there's a weapon out there, we have to find it. It could turn the tide in our favor. Are you sure it's not a trap? Jax questioned, concern etched on his face. Kayla straightened, determination surging within her. We don't have the luxury of doubt. We need to regroup, gather our strength, and prepare for whatever lies ahead. As the group gathered around her, Kayla felt the fire of leadership reigniting. She would honor the sacrifices of her comrades, and whatever challenges awaited her, she would face them head-on. The message had set her on a new path, one that could lead to salvation or destruction. But she would no longer shy away from her fate. She was a warrior, and she would fight for her people, no matter the cost. The air inside the aging ship was thick with a palpable tension, a heavy silence punctuated only by the occasional creak of metal and the hum of the engines. Kayla stood at the control panel, her fingers dancing across the cracked surface as she checked their course one last time. She could feel the weight of her comrades' gazes on her back, each one filled with a mix of hope and fear. They were all aware of the stakes. The journey to the abandoned space station could either bring them the weapon they so desperately needed or lead them to an early grave. Are you sure we're on the right path? Whispered Jax, the youngest among them, his voice trembling slightly. He leaned closer, his brow furrowed with concern. I mean, this station has been abandoned for decades. What if it's just a trap? Kayla turned to face him, her expression steady. If it were a trap, they would have taken the weapon long ago. We have to trust the information we received. Her voice was firm, but inside, uncertainty gnawed at her. They were heading into the unknown, and any misstep could be catastrophic. Trust is a luxury we can't afford, grumbled Mara, the veteran of the group, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. We need a plan, Kayla. What if we're walking into a slaughter? Kayla met her gaze, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on her shoulders. We'll proceed cautiously. We'll split into teams once we arrive. If there are traps, we'll need to flush them out before we make our move. Mara nodded slowly, her expression softening slightly. All right, but remember, I'm not afraid to take the lead if it comes to that. Kayla appreciated Mara's resilience, but felt a pang of irritation. They had been through enough together. This was a mission that required unity. We'll lead together. We're stronger as a team. I won't let anyone fall behind. The ship jolted suddenly, throwing everyone off balance. Kayla quickly regained her footing, her heart racing. "What was that?" she demanded, gripping the console tightly. "Those electromagnetic storms are getting worse," Jax replied, panic creeping into his voice. "We need to stabilize the ship or we'll crash." "Calm down," Kayla snapped, her instincts kicking in. "Mara, check the stabilizers. Jax, help me reroute the power to the shields. We can't afford to lose control now." As they worked frantically, the ship shuddered violently again, and the lights flickered. "Hold on!" Kayla shouted, wrestling with the controls. Just a little more. With a final surge of effort, they managed to stabilize the ship, and the tumultuous shaking subsided. Breathing heavily, Kayla glanced at her comrades, who were equally shaken, but relieved. "We're not out of the woods yet," she reminded them. "We need to be ready for anything." After what felt like an eternity, the ship finally broke through the storm clouds, revealing the ominous silhouette of the abandoned space station ahead. It loomed against the backdrop of the stars, its once grand structure now a shell of its former self, with twisted metal and flickering lights. Kayla's heart pounded as she approached. "Prepare for docking," she ordered, her voice steady despite the anxiety churning within her. As they drew closer, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Docking sequence initiated," Jax reported, his hands flying over the controls. "All systems are green." Once the ship was secured, Kayla led her team through the airlock, the metallic hiss echoing in the stillness. The atmosphere inside the station was stale, a haunting reminder of lives once lived. Shadows loomed in every corner, and the flickering lights cast eerie shapes that danced mockingly around them. "Stick together," Kayla instructed, her voice low and firm. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." They moved cautiously down the dimly lit corridor, the silence broken only by the sound of their footsteps echoing off the cold metal floor. A series of warning signs lined the walls, but the words faded with time, leaving only ghostly reminders of a past long gone. Suddenly, Mara halted, her hand raised. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, straining her ears. Kayla paused, her heart racing as she listened intently. A faint mechanical whirring echoed from deeper within the station. "It's coming from the main chamber," she said, glancing at her team. "Let's check it out." As they approached the chamber, the whirring grew louder, and Kayla felt a mix of dread and determination. They had come too far to turn back now. She pushed open the heavy door, and it creaked ominously as they stepped inside. The room was vast, filled with towering machines and strange technology that hummed with energy. In the center stood a large pedestal, its surface pulsating with a strange light. "That must be it," Kayla said, her voice a mix of awe and urgency. "The weapon." Before they could approach, a loud alarm blared, the lights flashing red as a holographic warning materialized before them. "Intruders detected. Security protocols activated." "Get back," Kayla shouted, instinctively moving her team away from the pedestal. A series of mechanical limbs emerged from the shadows, each one armed with deadly-looking weaponry, poised to attack. "Kayla, what do we do?" Jax's voice quivered with fear as he drew his weapon. "Hold your fire," Kayla commanded, her mind racing. "We need to disable the security system first. If we start shooting, we'll trigger the defenses." Mara nodded, her eyes sharp with focus. "I can try to hack into the mainframe. Cover me." Kayla and Jax took positions on either side of Mara, weapons drawn, scanning the room for any signs of movement. The mechanical limbs advanced, their movements swift and precise, and the tension in the air thickened. Almost there, Mara muttered, her fingers flying over a small console that had sprung to life. Just a few more seconds! Kayla's heart raced as she aimed at the nearest mechanical limb, poised to strike. Hurry, Mara! We're running out of time! Just then, one of the limbs lunged forward, its weapon firing a burst of energy. Kayla reacted instinctively, diving to the side and rolling to avoid the blast. Jax! Cover her! Jax fired several shots at the advancing limbs, managing to disable one, but the others continued their assault. The air crackled with energy, and Kayla felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Got it! Mara shouted triumphantly as the alarm ceased, and the limbs froze mid-attack. Now, let's get that weapon, Kayla urged, rushing towards the pedestal. As they approached, the pulsating light intensified, revealing intricate markings on the weapon's surface. It resonated with energy, and Kayla could feel a connection to it, as if it was calling out to her. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the chamber, and the ground shook beneath them. What's happening? Jax yelled, stumbling to maintain his balance. It's activating, Kayla realized, her heart racing. We need to grab it before she could finish. A massive figure emerged from the shadows, towering over them. The alien guardian was adorned with intricate armor, its eyes glowing fiercely as it surveyed them with a predatory gaze. Leave this place, it boomed, its voice reverberating in the chamber. You are not worthy. Kayla stepped forward, her resolve hardening. We've come for the weapon. We need it to fight back against the aliens that threaten humanity. The guardian snarled, a sound that sent chills down her spine. You will not take what is not yours. Prepare to face your doom. With that, the guardian charged, and Kayla's team braced themselves for the fight of their lives. The battle had begun, and the fate of their mission, and their people, hung precariously in the balance. The metallic clang of the guardian's massive blade reverberated through the chamber as Kayla barely dodged the deadly arc. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, heightening her senses and sharpening her focus. Her heart ached with the weight of her fallen comrades, their faces flashing through her mind like a haunting slideshow of memories. She had entered the space station with hope, and now, as the last of her team lay scattered and wounded, that hope felt increasingly fragile. With a swift movement, Kayla rolled to the side, narrowly escaping another strike from the Guardian. The creature towered over her, its body a blend of organic muscle and advanced technology, glimmering with an otherworldly sheen. It had faced many opponents before, but this time, it was not just a battle for survival, it was a reckoning. Come on, Kayla, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the clamor of combat. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for them. Drawing upon the last reserves of her strength, she surged forward, her weapon humming with energy. The blade of her sword crackled with an electric blue glow, a stark contrast to the dim lighting of the station. She had learned from her training that strength alone would not win this battle. She needed strategy, and more importantly, she needed to remember the camaraderie that had brought her this far. With a fierce determination, she feinted to the left, narrowly avoiding another swing of the Guardian's sword. As it overextended, Kayla seized her opportunity. She leapt onto the creature's arm, scrambling up its massive form. The Guardian let out a low growl, trying to shake her off. But Kayla had no intention of falling. She climbed higher, gripping onto the pulsating circuits embedded in its shoulder. With a mighty thrust, she plunged her blade into the Guardian's neck. The creature roared in agony, its mechanical components sputtering and sparking. Kayla felt a rush of triumph mingled with sorrow. She had won, but at what cost? As the Guardian crumpled to the ground, its body collapsing in a heap of metal and flesh, she looked around the chamber, her heart heavy with the loss of her friends. "Forgive me," she whispered, her voice breaking. She could almost hear their laughter, their encouragements echoing in her mind. I will honor you all. I promise. As she stood amidst the wreckage, the weight of the weapon in her hand felt different now. It pulsed with a warm energy, almost as if it were alive, and Kayla's breath hitched in her throat as she realized this was not just any weapon. It was ancient, steeped in the history of a civilization long forgotten. Stumbling backward, Kayla leaned against a wall, her mind racing. The stories she had heard from the Elder, tales of an ancient human civilization that once thrived among the stars, began to coalesce in her thoughts. Her fingers traced the intricate designs on the weapon's hilt, and she felt a surge of memories, images of vast cities, of humanity in harmony with the cosmos. "Kayla!" A voice broke through her reverie. It was Jax, one of the few survivors who had managed to stay conscious. His face was pale, smeared with the grime of battle, but his eyes were alight with urgency. "We need to get out of here. The alarms are blaring, and we're not safe yet." She nodded, her resolve hardening. "We have the weapon. We can turn the tide now." But the weight of her loss still pressed heavily on her heart. "We need to regroup and plan our next move." As they made their way through the dimly lit corridors, Kyla could feel the atmosphere shifting. The station hummed with an ominous energy, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Her instincts screamed at her to be vigilant. They rounded a corner, and Kayla halted abruptly. A flickering hologram materialized before her, projecting a swirling nebula of colors. "What the—" Jax started, but Kayla silenced him with a wave of her hand. The hologram coalesced into a figure, an ethereal woman with long, flowing hair that shimmered like starlight. "Kayla," the figure spoke, her voice resonating with an ancient wisdom, "you have awakened the legacy of your ancestors. The weapon you hold is not merely a tool of destruction, it is a key, one that unlocks the truth of your origins." Kayla's breath caught in her throat. "My origins," the holographic figure nodded, her eyes piercing into Kayla's soul. "You are a descendant of the Celestials, a lineage that once united the scattered races of the universe. Your path is intertwined with the fate of humanity and the cosmos. Embrace your heritage. It will guide you in the battles to come." "Celestials," Jax echoed, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Listen," Kayla urged, her heart pounding. This could change everything. If I am truly a part of this legacy, we may have a chance to unite not just humanity, but other races as well." The holographic figure smiled softly. "But knowledge comes with a price. You must be willing to confront the shadows of your past. Only then can you fully harness the power within you." "What shadows?" Kayla asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Your ancestors' mistakes, their failures to unite. The universe is not just a tapestry of light, it is also woven with darkness. You must be prepared to face both," the figure warned. "Kayla, we need to move," Jax insisted, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "We can't just stand here." As if on cue, the station shook, alarms blaring even louder. Kayla felt a surge of urgency. "You're right. We need to get out. But I can't ignore this." She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I will face whatever it is I must. For my friends, for humanity." With renewed determination, Kayla and Jax navigated the chaos of the station, the echoes of the holographic figure resonating in her mind. She could feel the energy of the weapon coursing through her, a connection that transcended time and space. It was more than a weapon. It was a legacy waiting to be embraced. "Kyla," Jax said, as they burst through a door leading to the docking bay, "are you really ready to face this? The truth about your past? What if it changes everything you thought you knew?" She turned to him, her expression resolute. "I have to know. If I am meant to unite our people, I need to understand where I come from. I won't let fear dictate my choices." As they reached the ship, Kyla's heart raced with anticipation. She could feel the weight of her ancestors' expectations, the burden of their legacy resting on her shoulders. But deep down, She felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. Whatever awaited her in the shadows of her past, she was ready to confront it. "Let's go," she said, her voice steady. "We have a fight ahead of us." As the ship's engines roared to life, Kayla felt the thrill of destiny beckoning her. The universe was vast and filled with potential, and she was determined to carve her place within it. With the weapon in hand and the echoes of her ancestors guiding her, she was ready to embrace the challenge ahead, no matter the cost. The battlefield stretched before Kayla like a dark ocean, waves of chaos crashing against each other in a frenzied dance of destruction. The remnants of humanity, battered but unbroken, stood resolutely behind her, their faces a mixture of determination and fear. They were outnumbered, but the fire of rebellion burned bright within their hearts. The alien coalition, a monstrous amalgamation of various races, loomed on the opposite side, their warships blotting out the sun and casting an ominous shadow over the land. "Stay close!" Kayla shouted, her voice cutting through the din of the impending conflict. She surveyed her comrades, a ragtag group of warriors, each one marked by loss but united in purpose. "We fight for our future, for our fallen!" As she spoke, a deafening roar erupted from the alien ranks, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. They surged forward, a tide of grotesque forms and ominous technology, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Kayla's heart raced, but she steadied herself, gripping the hilt of her sword. "On my mark!" she called out, her eyes narrowing as she pinpointed the enemy's front line. "Now!" With that single command, her warriors charged forward, a wave of humanity crashing against the alien horde. The first impact was brutal. Metal clashed against metal, and cries of pain and fury filled the air. Kayla fought like a whirlwind, her sword slicing through the ranks of their adversaries, each movement a blend of grace and ferocity. "Push them back!" she yelled, ducking under a swinging alien blade and retaliating with a swift thrust that caught an enemy off guard. "We can't let them breach our line!" Beside her, Jarek, one of her most trusted fighters, roared with defiance. "They'll pay for every inch they take!" He swung his weapon with practiced precision, his muscles straining as he cut down an alien soldier who had tried to flank Kayla. "Keep moving!" Kayla urged, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "We need to reach the command ship before they regroup." As they fought their way through the enemy ranks, Kayla's mind raced. She could feel the weight of her people's hopes resting on her shoulders, a burden that both inspired and terrified her. There was no room for failure. Not now. Not after everything they had sacrificed. Suddenly, a surge of energy pulsed through the air, and Kayla's heart skipped a beat. It was time. She reached into her belt and activated the weapon they had fought so hard to retrieve, a device of immense power, one that could turn the tide of battle in an instant. "Stand back!" she shouted, raising the weapon high above her head. The air crackled with energy as she focused on the alien fleet, her heart pounding with anticipation. She pressed the activation button, unleashing a blinding wave of light that surged outward, engulfing the battlefield. The explosion of energy coursed through the alien technology, disrupting their systems, causing ships to falter and weapons to misfire. Kayla watched in awe as the once organized ranks of the alien forces descended into chaos, their confusion offering a momentary advantage to her warriors. "Now! Push forward!" Kayla commanded, her voice ringing clear over the tumult. Her heart raced as she led the charge into the fray, the disoriented aliens falling back under the renewed onslaught of human fighters. However, just as victory seemed within reach, an imposing figure emerged from the chaos. The alien commander, a towering being clad in menacing armor, stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. His skin shimmered like polished obsidian, and his eyes glowed with an intelligence that sent a chill down Kayla's spine. "Kayla!" he bellowed, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "You do not understand the forces at play. You think you fight for humanity, but your lineage reveals a greater destiny." Kayla halted, her breath catching in her throat. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, her heart racing for an entirely different reason now. I'm fighting for my people. The commander took a step closer, his gaze piercing through the chaos. You are more than just a human warrior. You are the last descendant of an ancient race, a lineage intertwined with the fates of both our worlds. The weapon you wield, it was designed for you. No! Kayla shouted, disbelief flooding her senses. You lie! I am human! Are you? He challenged, his voice low and resonant. The truth is that your ancestors were once revered across the galaxies. They possessed a power that could unite and destroy. Your destiny is not merely to defend your people, it is to lead them into a new era. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Kayla's mind whirled as she processed the revelation. Could it be true? Was she truly connected to a legacy that spanned the cosmos? Liar! Jarek stepped forward, shaking his head. You're trying to weaken her. Don't listen to him, Kayla. But the commander's words had struck a chord deep within her. No, Jarek, wait, she said, holding up a hand. Let him speak. Your lineage is not a curse, Kayla, the commander continued, his tone shifting to something almost pleading. It is a gift. You possess the power to forge alliances, to end this conflict. You can bring peace. Kayla felt a flicker of doubt mingled with curiosity. Peace, she echoed, her voice barely a whisper. How can I trust anything you say? Because our worlds are on the brink of annihilation, and only together can we face the true threat that looms in the shadows, he replied, his gaze unwavering. You need only to embrace who you are. With every word, Kayla could feel the fabric of her identity unraveling. The weight of the weapon felt heavier in her hands, and the chaotic battlefield faded into the background. Embrace my destiny, she questioned, looking at the commander with newfound intensity. What if you're wrong? What if I lead my people to ruin? Then you will be the greatest warrior to ever walk this earth, he asserted, his voice steady and calm. But you must first understand the truth of who you are. As the battle raged around them, Kayla stood frozen, torn between the relentless fight for her people and the tantalizing possibility of a deeper truth. Her heart raced, caught in the throes of uncertainty, as the echoes of her ancestors whispered in her mind, urging her to listen, to understand. The dust of the battlefield swirled around them, and in that moment, Kayla realized that the fight ahead was not just against the alien coalition. It was a fight for her very identity. The cacophony of battle enveloped Kayla, a symphony of clashing metal and desperate cries. Her heart raced, but amidst the chaos, a single phrase echoed in her mind. The alien commander's words, asserting that her lineage connected her to a race beyond her comprehension. She stood frozen, caught in a moment that felt both infinite and fleeting. The hints of a deeper truth about herself had thrown her into turmoil, and she struggled against the weight of it all. Kayla! A voice broke through her reverie. It was Nico, one of her most trusted allies, who had rushed to her side, breathless and bloodied. We need you. We can't hold them back much longer. She tore her gaze from the alien commander, who smirked with a confidence that grated on her nerves. What do you know about me? She demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. You mentioned my heritage. Tell me everything. The commander's eyes gleamed with a mixture of amusement and disdain. You think you can demand answers amid a battlefield? Child, you are more than you know. You are a descendant of the Glaxian race, engineered to unite the fractured civilizations of this galaxy. Humans and aliens alike, your destiny is to be the bridge. Kayla's breath hitched. The Glaxians. Legends had painted them as a powerful race, one that had disappeared eons ago. She felt a swell of anger rising within her. You think I will side with you just because of some bloodline? I am human, and I stand with my people. But you are more than human, the commander countered, his voice low and insistent. You possess powers within you that you have yet to awaken. Join us, and together we can fend off the true enemy that looms over us all." "Enough!" Kayla roared, shaking her head as if to clear it. She faced Nico, whose expression hung between concern and determination. "We cannot trust him." Nico nodded but kept his voice low. "I don't think we have a choice. They're regrouping for another assault, and you need to make a decision. We can't fight this war alone." In that instant, the tide of battle surged once more. Alien soldiers charged, their weapons crackling with energy. The air thickened with tension as Kyla felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She could either cling to her anger and pride or embrace the possibility of a greater purpose. Taking a deep breath, Kayla closed her eyes for a brief moment. Allowing the chaos around her to fade, she reached deep within herself, feeling for that flicker of power the commander had alluded to. She wanted to deny it, to push it away, but the truth was undeniable. She was a warrior, forged in the fires of conflict, but perhaps she was also something more, something that could unite a fractured galaxy. "Nico," she said, her voice firm, "get the others. Prepare for a counteroffensive. If there is a chance to ally with some of them, we'll need to be ready." Nico's eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. "You got it, Kyla. I'll rally the troops." As he dashed away, Kayla turned back to the commander. "If I decide to entertain this alliance, I want my people to be safe. No more games. You'll have to prove that your intentions are genuine." The commander's smile faded slightly, but he nodded. "Very well, Kayla. I can show you the way to those who would stand with you, those who see the threat that approaches. But know this, in order to unite, you will have to embrace your true self." With a fierce determination igniting her spirit, Kayla took a step closer. "Then let's end this, but on our terms. We will fight together, but I will not be a pawn in your games." As the battle raged on around them, Kayla called out to her fellow warriors, "Listen up! We're changing our strategy. We have a chance to forge an alliance with some of the alien forces. We'll need to work together if we're going to defeat the real enemy." Surprised murmurs rippled through her team, but the urgency of their situation quelled any lingering doubts. Kayla's voice rang clear, cutting through the fear. "We've lost too many already. We cannot afford to lose more. If we can turn the tide, we must take that chance." With a newfound sense of purpose, Kayla led her team toward the alien ranks, her heart pounding with both anxiety and resolve. As they moved, she noticed a few of the alien soldiers hesitating, their eyes darting between their commander and her band of warriors. It was a pivotal moment, a chance for unity forged in the fires of desperation. "Come forward!" she shouted, raising her weapon in solidarity. "We fight for the same cause. The enemy threatens us all. Join us, and together we can rise against them." A few alien soldiers exchanged glances, uncertainty etched on their faces, but as Kayla looked into their eyes, she saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of recognition. One soldier stepped forward, a tall figure with azure skin and piercing eyes. "You speak the truth, human. We have suffered at the hands of our own kind. Perhaps it is time to unite against a common enemy." The commander watched with a mix of intrigue and wariness. "You would betray your own for a fleeting alliance?" "Not betrayal," Kayla replied, her voice steady and firm. "This is survival. If we do not stand together, we will fall alone. The choice is yours." The tide of battle began to shift. More alien soldiers stepped forward, weapons lowered, a tentative truce forming in the midst of chaos. Kayla felt a surge of energy course through her veins, a sense of empowerment that came not just from her ancestry, but from the unity she was beginning to forge. "Let us show them our strength," she called, rallying her warriors and their new allies. "Together, we will fight. Together, we will prevail." A roar of approval echoed from both sides, and as Kayla stood at the forefront, she realized that the true power of her lineage was not just in her blood, but in her ability to inspire hope where despair had reigned. The universe trembled not just with the force of their combined might, but with the promise of a new dawn, a united front against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As they surged forward, Kyla felt her heart swell with purpose. She was not just a warrior. She was a leader, a beacon of hope for both humans and aliens alike. In that moment, she understood the true nature of strength. It lay not in domination, but in the courage to unite against a common threat. The battle was far from over, but together they would fight as one, ready to face whatever lay beyond the horizon.